The Denver Broncos are about to send shockwaves through the Pittsburgh Steelers and be victorious in their home opener on Sunday at Mile High. I just noticed on Twitter, on Reddit, everywhere you see Broncos jumping off the bandwagon. Broncos fans, we've been hurt for the past 8 seasons in a row and have had our hopes up, and it's been absolutely gutting. But I'm just here to tell you that there are some distinct differences between this year's team and teams of the past, and I'm going to point out some of those in this video and just why it is such a good matchup for Sean Payton and these Denver Broncos. Let's dive right in. So right off the bat, the thing that you can't forget is how sneaky good our advantage is in those early weeks to have teams come to the Mile High, come out west, and play at 5,280 feet. If you visited Denver, you know it's hard to even make it up a flight of stairs. And so with reduced training camp opportunities for these teams, players come in and they're not in great enough shape to even play an entire NFL game, much less play it at altitude with less oxygen. And so you look overall, we're way above 500, even against great teams that we've played in home openers. And I just remember awesome times of our revenge against the Ravens on our home opener. And I think this is a real distinct advantage that we have we have players coming and playing at altitude. The next thing is it's easy to look at just the dominating defensive performance that the Pittsburgh Steelers put up against the Atlanta Falcons. But I got to tell you why holding the Falcons to 10 points is not nearly as impressive as it seems just looking at the box score. So a couple big things that are really important to note is that the Atlanta Falcons traded for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury. Already he was a limited quarterback when it came to mobility, and he's up there in age. His Achilles injury just was not that long ago. He clearly is still hobbled and was basically a statue this week when they played the Falcons. So they lined up in pistol or shotgun on 96% of their throws, and they could not have been more predictable in what they were doing out of there. They ran the ball when they were in pistol 81% of the time. And so the Pittsburgh Steelers knew, hey, if they're in pistol, there is a way better than 50-50 shot, a way better than 70-30 shot that they are handing the ball off. And so that enabled the Pittsburgh Steelers to truly hone in on the run when they're in pistol. And then when they were in shotgun, they knew they were throwing. And to go from a very predictable offense to what Sean Payton is going to roll out on them this week, this defense will not look nearly as good as it did against them. And even still, you still see Kirk Cousins throw for almost 155 yards with a very predictable scheme there going. You also look, yes, this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is incredible, but its strength lies in its defensive line and its ability to pressure the quarterback. And we saw what makes Bo Nix great is his ability to get rid of that ball immediately, and that's what Sean loves about him. And so I think you look at the Seahawks defense. We didn't know what we were going up against because we don't have film on what Mike McDaniels is going to do in that. And he had a leg up on Sean Payton, no doubt. But their strength lies in their secondary, which made it harder for Bo Nix, which made a couple interceptions there. And so I love going against a stronger defense on paper, but that strength is something that I think Bo Nix will neutralize with how quick he's going to distribute the ball. He was only sacked twice in that game, despite the fact that he was pressured more than any other quarterback in the league in week 1 and was only sacked twice. And one of them was a time that he ran out of bounds that I thought he was right at the marker, and it was maybe a loss of 1. And so I think that matches up really well. Another thing here was just looking at how often Kirk Cousins was put in a position that he doesn't thrive in, that he doesn't like running out of that pistol set. And so the fact that he was forced because of his lack of mobility and not being 100% from that injury to be in the pistol set when he had never taken more than 10 snaps in it in his 13-year career is a really, really good thing for the Broncos. Of like, that Steelers defense isn't as good as it looks. And so I think at its Strez on Twitter has the absolute perfect point. Kirk Cousins was a sitting duck. We had Bo Nix, who hit the second fastest ball carrier total in his miles per hour. And you just couldn't have a more different quarterback that the Steelers are going to be facing this week. A statue who can't move, and they're basically telling you what they're going to run by what formation they're lining up in. And now knowing we have Bo Nix, who's way more mobile at this point in his career and not coming off an injury than Kirk Cousins. So I think that looks really great. I think defensively, the fact that the Atlanta Falcons were able to keep the Pittsburgh Steelers out of the end zone the entire game, and they kicked 6 field goals in that game, is a really good thing, because there is zero doubt, even non-biased sources, there's zero doubt that the Atlanta Falcons are a much inferior defense to what we have. So our defense is better, and I think our offense is better than what the Atlanta Falcons were able to run with Kirk Cousins. You look last year, they were the 28th worst team last year when it comes to DVOA in the entire league, and they used their number 1 draft pick to go get Michael Penix, and so they weren't better, and even they were able to keep Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers out of the end zone the entire game. I think another thing that no one is really talking about is that while this was an away game for the Steelers, for them to have 2 games in a row on the road, that's a unfortunate thing for them. I'm glad we get a home game week 2. But the Atlanta Falcons game, in essence, was more of a neutral field for them. And the Atlanta Falcons actually had to run silent count because of how many Steeler fans, they travel extremely well, how many Steeler fans were packing the Atlanta Falcons stadium. And so many of our players have come out and be like, yeah, that's not going to be a problem here in Denver. We know this place is going to be lit up with orange and blue. And while you'll see some terrible towels, you'll definitely see more orange towels as the Broncos are distributing those to fans tomorrow in attendance. And so we have a better defense than Atlanta has. We have a schematic advantage in that we're going to be able to line up in all different sets. You'll see Bo under center. You'll see Bo in, like, we're not going to be running 80% of our plays out of pistol or shotgun, and we're going to actually have a home field advantage. So just right off the bat there, those are 3 big reasons why I think the Denver Broncos are going to send shockwaves and reframe the narrative. You got people bailing on Broncos country already. Do not. We were within 1 score against one of the toughest teams to play offensively, and we truly locked them down that first half. And if we continue that into this week, we will be 1-1 and with a chance to shock the world going on an East Coast road trip starting next week. I think another crazy advantage that we have is that for all the Sean Payton hate, he is 3-0 against one of the best coaches in the league in Mike Tomlin, and I think that becomes 4-0 tomorrow. Do not sleep on the fact that Sean Payton knows the disrespect and the way people have been disrespecting him all year. I think another sneaky advantage that we have is that DK Metcalf is a much superior offensive weapon than Pickens, and so you trust that obviously Pat Surtain is going to have Pickens on lock again, just like he did Metcalf. And then there's a drastic fall off at wide receiver too. That's why the Pittsburgh Steelers were trying to get Brandon Ayuk, because when other than Pickens, they do not have an offensive weapon that scares you. Najee Harris is a much inferior running back than you have in Walker, who ran all over us in the second half of that game. And I just think this really matches up well for us, and I have not stopped believing because of that. I think one of the things Vance Joseph knows right off the bat, that they have to run the ball because Justin Fields is very limited in what he can do. And so you will see us selling out to stop the run and trusting that Riley Moss is going to have that corner 2 position on lock, that Jaquan is going to continue to be an elite cornerback in the slot, and that Pat Surtain is the best cornerback in all of football. Obviously, the disrespect that we saw this week adds further fuel to the fire of Pat Surtain, with George Pickens coming out and being like, yeah, he's a good player. I played against him in college. I'm not worried about it. There's a lot of good players in the NFL. And you're like, dude, you don't even know what you just got yourself into. Other reasons why I think there's got to be a ton of belief here in Broncos country is that we're just seeing that even the powerhouse Kansas City Chiefs, the big wide receiver they're hoping of coming back, he's probably going to not be coming back till right before the Chiefs hit a playoff run. I think we are seeing quarterbacks fall right and left, with Love going out, with Tua going out. So the Broncos got to feel really good that they got their dude, that he is healthy. The big rumor now is, like, could you see the Broncos shipping off Zach Wilson to Miami and getting some draft picks in return for that? Shipping Stidham to Miami or to Green Bay. So that's going to be something we definitely keep our eyes on here. Big game tomorrow. We are getting orange towels to everybody. I cannot wait to see this stands lit up with orange and blue towels going wild. Let me know your final score predictions in the comments. I am going to be streaming at the 2-minute warning of the second half. I cannot handle doing an entire game watch along again. That was emotionally exhausting for me. I'm usually like pacing and screaming, and so it was really hard to do. But I plan to do a couple other watch alongs this year, but I'm going to be way too hyped in our home opener. Still don't know a final status for Russell Wilson. He is questionable going into the game. I think I could see a world where he ends up playing, and I could see a world where he doesn't. But, man, there's going to be so much more juice if he is playing. And if he's playing, I will have to do a live stream watch along because there's no way I could sit that one out because that will take my intensity from like a 9 to a 10.5. But either way, the Broncos are going to win tomorrow. Mark our words right here. Timestamp it. We got a ton to believe in. Making the shot, that is clutch. That is clutch.